You have heard this before, that many people who convert to a different religion become the most doctrinaire adherents of that faith, and sometimes, in the case of Islam, perversely misinterpreting it. Joining us now with their views on the allure of this new beginning, in Fredericton, New Brunswick via Skype, Alexandra Bain. She's a professor of Islamic Studies at St. Thomas University. And with us here in studio, Imam Shabir Ali, president of the Islamic Information and Dawah Center. And Imam, it's good to have you back here at our studios. Alexandra, nice to meet you for the first time on our program. I want to start with you, Shabir, because I'm sorry to ask this, but I've just got to ask this. What went through your head when you heard that the two killers this week were both recent converts to Islam?
Well, first of all, the news of these two events are terrible in themselves. And as a Canadian, I feel badly that this is happening in our country. At the same time, directly to answer your question, I'm thinking, here we go again. Did we go through all of this before? And we have to explain all over again that this has nothing to do with our religion. Muslims are law-abiding citizens generally. And like most communities, we have our bad eggs. And apparently recently we've had many such bad eggs, and they're doing terrible things. And we have to not only distance ourselves from these persons, but we also have to do something radically different to make sure that our community does not harbor such bad eggs.
Alexandra Bain, I'd like to ask you the same question. You are a convert to Islam, and I wonder what went through your head when you heard that these two killers were also converts to Islam.
First, my heart broke for the Vincent family and the Credo family. And my heart broke for the Muslim community.
Your heart broke for the Muslim community because why?
Because of the immediate assumption that, there's something intrinsic to Islam that is causing people to do this.
And you, having obviously studied the religion and converted to it, would say that that's not the case?
Absolutely not the case, no. People have been converting to Islam for 1,400 years. They've not behaved this way. They've gone on to do wonderful things. Most of Canada's Muslims are law-abiding, peace-loving citizens who are just as horrified as the rest of Canada.
What religion were you born with?
I was brought up a Catholic. And
why did you decide to convert to Islam?
It was 35 years ago. I won't tell you how old I was then. I was seeking answers to questions I had as a teenager and as a young 20-something. I felt there was something wrong with the world, and my own religion didn't answer those questions for me. So I came into contact with some families, asked them questions, and read the Quran, and it made a lot of sense to me at the time. It still does.
So you found the answers you were looking for there?
I found some of the answers, and it's been a 35-year journey. I've studied it, which makes me a bit different than a lot of converts. And I think that that's one of the big problems that you have with these young people who are becoming violent, is that they don't actually know the religion.
Imam, you heard the explanation that Alexandra Bain gave for why she decided to convert. I'm sure you have heard many explanations, such as, why do people convert to Islam?
Alexandra's explanation is actually quite common. The book Daughters of Another Path by Carol Anway addresses many such stories of young women in particular, but we can say that this applies to young men as well, who in their college years took a course on comparative religion, and at the end of it thought that Islam makes a lot of sense compared with other religions, and this led to their conversion. Some women have converted to Islam for reasons of marriage. Others might have converted for a wide variety of reasons, but I think that the intellectual appeal of Islam is very strong. Many people who have converted to Islam from Christianity in particular had found previously that some core doctrines are confusing, and that in Islam these doctrines are very clear, or related doctrines are very clear. For example, it's very clear in Islam that there is only one God. It is very clear that Jesus is a prophet of God like other prophets like Moses and like the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. So there is also a simplicity in the belief system, in that you believe in God, His angels, His books, His prophets, and so on. You do good deeds, and it seems that in all great religions, the importance of good deeds are stressed.
Just based on what you have heard so far about the two men at the center of the drama in our country this week, have you been able to come to any conclusions as to why you think they converted to Islam?
In the case of the gentleman who attacked Parliament Hill, we can see that he has had a long record with the police of drug dealings and other crime. Sometimes it may be the case that a person converts to Islam because, well, they find a certain clarity, a moral clarity to begin with, a clarity in the whole belief system, and also a way forward to turn their lives around and make it supremely meaningful.
A clarity they don't see in kind of secular Western culture, that kind of thing?
Yes, and in fact, Islam can be presented to them as being entirely counter to Western culture. And they may immediately own up to certain problems in Western culture. Let's say, for example, somebody is growing up in Canada, finding himself in a lot of crime, and now asking, what's to be blamed for this? And thinking that it's not all me that's bad, something is wrong with the culture in which I grew up. And then if Islam is presented to that person, especially if somebody's in prison, and then let's say a Muslim chaplain goes and offers them some insight into the Islamic faith, and they say, well, wait a minute, that sounds great. It looks like now it's all clear. Something is wrong with Canadian culture that made me what I am so far, but I can change that around by becoming Muslim, and that is the opposite of what I've been in all this while. And
we've seen, though, Alexander Bain, that the man at the center of the drama on Parliament Hill this week was apparently even kicked out of the mosque that he tried to be a part of. So clearly, conversion to Islam doesn't always take, if you like. Can you give us some sense from both your studying it and having done it yourself about the nature of converting to Islam, in the sense that it's one of the easier religions to convert to? And by that I mean, I'm told that if you want to convert to Judaism, it's the rabbi's obligation to tell you 3 times, no, we don't want you. And it's a difficult conversion, and it takes a long time. Not the case with Islam. Does that matter?
I think that many people who convert to Islam go on to become your average mainstream Muslim. I don't think it's the easiness of the Shahada that's causing the problem. I think that what's happening is that, as you said, people are being kicked out of mosques. A lot of young people, a few of these young people who have embraced Islam because they are finding problems in their life, problems in Canadian society, they embrace Islam, and then it becomes not enough for them. It doesn't solve their problems. And someone comes along with what is virtually a new religious movement within Islam, this jihadism, that is a perfect template. It answers all of your questions. Right and wrong are clear and distinct. And it's a very shallow Islam. It's a very warped version of it. And I think that that's the problem. That's why they have to leave the mosques. The mosques aren't putting up with this. The mosques are calling the police. They're calling the RCMP. They're saying, we have a problem. And they're asking the people to leave.
So the way you've described it, I guess one can see the appeal of something that crystal clear, but on the other hand, it's not the Islam you know, obviously. Is that right?
It's crystal clear, but Islam is a lot more nuanced than that. Islam has a 14-year history. There are Muslims
1,400-year history.
Sorry, 14 years.
Yeah.
There are Muslims all over the world. And you can see that Muslims don't practice this in their daily lives on an ongoing basis. You just have to go to the mosque yourself, go and meet Muslims, and you'll find that they are peace-loving, law-abiding citizens who have made Canada their home, or like myself, my family's been in Canada since 1643. I love Canada. Most Muslims do. That for many of them, that's why they came here. They came here for peace. They came here to be able to practice their religion in peace, not to cause problems.
Imam, do you think the relative ease with which one can say, I am converting to Islam, I am now a Muslim, in some respects attracts the wrong crowd, some of the wrong crowd?
Well, the ease of conversion in terms of just announcing one's faith in a mosque or in a Muslim establishment, that itself, I don't believe to be the problem. I think the problem is more deep-rooted than this. In a typical mosque in North America, you have what you can see right away as a culture that is imported from another part of the world. Let's say Palestinians or Saudi Arabians or anyone else are at the helm of a mosque. They call the shots and they establish how things are run. Well, they will very quickly and easily develop a sort of culture in that mosque that is similar to what they have experienced back in their countries. And we can hardly find a mosque that reflects something very similar to what is outside of the mosque within the Canadian landscape in Canada. And what this means for a new convert, let's say a young Canadian person born and bred in Canada, now they've come into the mosque, they said, okay, I read something about Islam, it seems all clear to me now, there's only one God, Jesus is his prophet, I was confused about the Trinity, and now I know that Islam is true, I want to be a Muslim. Okay, so that person is told to announce certain formulas that declares his or her faith in God as the only God, in Muhammad as the prophet and messenger of God. And now there's a lot of our equivalent of Alleluias, Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. A lot of this is resounding in the mosque, and then there is the need for this person to fit in with that culture. And very quickly that person finds that he or she does not fit in with the culture. We pray on the floor, which is something traditional, and this is not going to change. But there are other aspects of culture that are unnecessary to the faith, but are brought in from different lands. A very simple case in point is the food that will be offered at the end of most gatherings. Most likely is going to be a biryani or some food from, let's say, India or Pakistan that is heavily spiced and smells good and tastes good, but for people who are accustomed to that, and some Canadians may not be accustomed to that.
But just to pick up on what you said earlier, it sounds like Bibeau, one of his difficulties was he thought he could be a devout Muslim and a drug addict at the same time. This is obviously not consistent with the faith, right?
Not at all.
Right,
no.
all right. Well, let me play. You both may know this fellow, Mohammed Robert Heft, a de-radicalization counselor from the Greater Toronto Area. He also is a convert to the Muslim faith, and he was talking about homegrown terror on our program quite recently. I want to play a little clip on that, and then we'll come back and chat. Roll tape, please.
A simplistic view of the world. I mean, it's black and white. It's the believers and the non-believers. And when you convert to Islam, as I did about 15 years ago, you are looking for that moral clarity. Sometimes, people don't see it, but delusions of grandeur. We come in and we're sort of built up in our community. You wouldn't know this, but from the inside, we get told we're all forgiven for our sin. We're really good. We're better than everyone else because now we've started with a clean slate. And then what happens is sometimes we get bitter because the community, other than getting excited for our conversion, kind of leaves us high and dry. They don't really give us moral and social support.
Professor Bain, what do you make of what he said?
It resonates to a degree. I think that I've spent 35 years, at least the beginning, struggling against people's various cultures, struggling to explain that I can't become an Arab, I can't become a Pakistani, I can't become an Indonesian. And it's my studying Islam that has, I guess, alleviated that confusion for me. You can be a Canadian and a Muslim. And I think that there is more to be done amongst the Muslim communities of Canada to embrace these people. and to make them feel more comfortable, more secure.
Can I speculate, though, that 35 years ago when you converted to Islam, there was not a tremendous amount of support either in your family or perhaps in your broader community for that decision?
Yes, that's the case. It is the case.
And how have you dealt with all that?
Well, time, studying, making new connections. I guess I would consider myself an unmosqued Muslim, which there are an awful lot of. I have a very good relationship with the Fredericton Islamic Association here, but they're not my social circle. And I think for me it's a product of age. I think it's a product of age and moving down the road a bit. But for young people, I do think that there is a place for a lot more openness on the part of Muslim communities to these young converts. Although again, I don't blame the Muslim communities at all for what happened.
No, I understand that, but Imam, one can imagine that if this fella, Bibo, was looking for an entree into the Muslim community by converting and hoping that it would embrace him, but in fact they kicked him out of the mosque because he was too radical for them and they didn't like his drug use. Can you imagine that might have propelled him towards the radical views that he ultimately ended up having?
Yes, the fact that we create a culture in the mosque that is not welcoming to sinners with their sins. I mean, crime is not allowed anywhere, even in a mosque. But our openness to sinners and our welcoming of people as they are, women dressed as they are, Canadian women coming into the mosque as they are, men and women coming with the Canadian culture into a mosque should feel that they're entering a place that is similar to what is outside of the mosque within the wider Canadian landscape, with the main difference in that we have some central beliefs to which we subscribe. There is only one God. Muhammad is the prophet and messenger of God. But if what we find in the mosque is so counter-Canadian culture, then most Canadians embracing Islam, saying the Shahada and getting all of the Allahu Akbars in praise, will soon find themselves very uncomfortable in the mosque culture and become unmosqued, to use the term which Alexandra just used. And in Alexandra's case, this is fine. She is practicing her Islam away from the mosque. But some others would be led to internet chat rooms or to certain extremist sites, because they're disconnected from the live body of the Muslim community, who are very Canadian and who support Canadian values and who are law-abiding citizens who love this country and want the better welfare of this country. And they are now linked with people across the world who are engaged in some global extremist ideology with a totalitarian sort of outlook.
And they fit right in with that. You know this expression, Alexandra Bain, that some who convert to Catholicism feel a need to be more Catholic than the Pope. I mean, it's an amusing expression meant to convey that they get very serious and adhere to the doctrine very, very seriously. I guess a two-part question. Number one, did you experience that when you converted to Islam? And number two, do you get the sense that propels people again who are converts to Islam to join this kind of rejectionist front in order to, again, the expression being, be more Catholic than the Pope?
Yes, I think I probably became more Catholic than the Pope when I first embraced Islam. I've made choices and done a lot of seeking within the Muslim world itself. So as time's gone on, less so. Do I think that this is having an impact on the young people who we are seeing commit violent acts? I think that there is an initial sense of urgency to their conversion and a sense of excitement. This is everybody. For some people, And we don't really know why. People can pick some reasons. They can take a look at broken homes. They can take a look at drug addiction. They can take a look at unemployment. There are all kinds of reasons. When we take a look at the group of young people who've committed this kind of violence, there are themes. But there are an awful lot more people out there who have embraced Islam, gone through their period of excitement, also have those problems, and have not committed violence. So it's not an easy thing to try to determine who, in fact, is going to go over the boundary.
That's our time tonight, and I want to thank both of you for joining us for what is a complicated conversation, but I think you've both really helped shed some light on it tonight here on TVO. Thanks, Alexander Bain, for being there for us from St. Thomas University in Fredericton, and Imam Shabir Ali from the Islamic Information and Dawah Center here in Toronto. Appreciate it.
Pleasure to be on.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.